Lila Voss clutched the half-eaten apple in her trembling hand, its bruised skin a mirror to her battered spirit. The city's neon lights pulsed mockingly from the distant skyline, casting long shadows over the alley where she had sought refuge for the night. Once, she had been the heir apparent to a thriving fashion empire, her days filled with sketches of elegant gowns and the scent of fresh fabrics in her mother's atelier. But that life felt like a distant dream now, shattered by the man she had foolishly loved. Damon Hale, the charismatic tycoon whose smile hid a serpent's fangs, had swept her off her feet with promises of eternal devotion. Their marriage, however, had been a gilded cage, woven with threads of subtle isolation and financial control, disguised as protective care. It started innocently enough. Damon would suggest she skip family gatherings, claiming they were too chaotic for her delicate sensibilities. Then came the joint bank accounts, where he monitored every penny she spent, questioning her choices under the guise of fiscal responsibility. Lila had ignored the red flags, blinded by the intoxicating rush of what she thought was true love. Her mother, Viviana Voss, had warned her repeatedly. Viviana, a fierce Italian immigrant who had built Voss elegance from a single sewing machine in a cramped apartment, saw through Damon's facade. "Do not marry that man, Lila. He is a deceiver. He will shatter you one day. If you proceed, you will inherit nothing." But young and defiant Lila had chosen passion over prudence, severing ties with her mother in a fit of rebellion. The divorce came like a thunderclap. Damon, arm in arm with his new flame, Arya, sneered as his cutthroat legal team stripped Lila of everything. "No one cares for a destitute woman," he had said coldly, his eyes devoid of remorse. The courts, swayed by the Hale family's influence, rooted in his father Harlan's corrupt judicial legacy, left her with nothing but mounting debts and a broken heart. Homeless for months, Lila wandered the streets, her once stylish clothes reduced to rags, her stomach a constant knot of hunger. She scavenged through dumpsters behind bistros, hoping for scraps others had discarded. The humiliation burned deeper than the cold night air, each bite a reminder of how far she had fallen. As rain began drizzling this evening, turning the alley into a slick labyrinth of despair, a figure emerged from the shadows. Clad in a sleek trench coat that whispered of quiet wealth, the stranger paused beside her. "Pardon me, are you Lila Voss?" The voice was soft, almost reverent, cutting through the din of distant traffic. Lila looked up, her eyes wide with shock. She nodded slowly, too stunned to speak. The woman's eyes softened with a mix of sympathy and resolve. "Your mother has passed. She has bequeathed you her estate, her vintage Aston Martin, and a $600 million fortune." The words hung in the air like a lifeline thrown into turbulent waters. Lila's world spun, her mind reeling back to Viviana's final warning, echoing painfully in her ears. Blinded by passion, she had ignored it all, forfeiting her world for a betrayer who validated every fear. Tears welled up as fragments of memories flooded her. Childhood afternoons in the garden, learning to see beauty in every stitch from her mother's skilled hands. Heated arguments where Viviana pleaded for her to see Damon's true nature, his family's history of manipulation stretching back generations, from Harlan's rigged court cases to their empire built on silenced victims. In the biting chill, the stranger, Serafina Locke, Viviana's attorney for 2 decades, leaned in closer. "But there is a stipulation." Her following words ignited a firestorm within Lila. "Viviana Voss held on longer than the doctors predicted, searching for you desperately. She knew of your plight, watching from afar, refusing to intervene directly to avoid enabling the abuse that trapped you." Serafina's voice was steady, laced with the weight of unspoken grief. "The inheritance includes the sprawling villa on Evergreen Heights, the luxury car she cherished as a symbol of her first major success, and her vast personal fortune, including investments and the legacy of Voss elegance." Lila's knees buckled, not from the gnawing hunger that had become her constant companion, but from the raw truth crashing over her. Her mother had known, had seen her daughter's descent into homelessness, the nights spent huddled in shelters, the days begging for odd jobs that barely sustained her. Yet, Viviana had chosen patience, a desperate act of love, waiting for Lila to break free from Damon's grasp. The conditions loomed like challenges forged in fire. First, revive the crumbling Voss elegance fashion house, which had faltered since Lila's departure, its creative spark dimmed by years of sabotage from Damon's covert interference. Second, halt Damon's Hale developments from razing the historic family district, a personal vendetta born from Viviana's past opposition to Harlan's corrupt schemes that had once threatened their immigrant community. As Lila gripped the envelope of proofs, photographs of the villa's opulent gardens, blueprints of the district's irreplaceable architecture, financial ledgers detailing the estate's worth, a seed of resolve sprouted amid her despair. This was not mere charity. It was a battlefield map, drawn by a mother who believed in her daughter's untapped strength. Serafina guided her to the car, the warmth enveloping Lila like an embrace from another life. Inside, more revelations awaited. Viviana's letters hidden throughout the villa, each a breadcrumb leading back to self-worth. But as they drove through the transforming neighborhoods, from desolate streets to prosperous avenues, Lila's phone buzzed with a chilling message from Damon. Heard of your windfall. Time to settle old scores. The threat fueled her emerging fire. Damon's shadow would not define her end. This inheritance was her mother's final act of defiance, a testament to unconditional love that refused to yield. Lila straightened her spine, the apple forgotten in her fist. Hope flickered for the first time in months, not as a fragile flame, but as a blazing inferno ready to consume the darkness. When I arrived at the villa, its facade glowed under the moonlight, and every window was a beacon of possibility. Mira, the loyal housekeeper with the family since Lila's infancy, rushed out, her arms open wide. Child, we have waited so long. Thorne, the estate manager whose military background ensured the property's security, stood nearby, his composure cracking with silent tears. Then Ilara, Lila's cousin, appeared, guarded, her eyes reflecting years of burden. Rescued by Viviana from poverty after losing her parents, Ilara had poured her soul into preserving Voss elegance, her resentment a shield against abandonment. We will talk tomorrow, Ilara said coolly. It is worse than you imagine. Alone in the grand foyer, Lila traced the marble floors, memories surging. Laughter-filled dinners, creative sessions with Viviana. In her old room, fresh clothes awaited, alongside a note. The conditions are not punishment. They are your path to freedom. As Lila wept, not in defeat but in understanding, Damon's legal notice arrived via email, demanding half the estate under claims of marital support. Rage coursed through her veins. He could not even grant her one night of peace. Calling Serafina despite the hour, Lila declared, "Tell me about the legal team my mother assembled, because Damon Hale just declared war, and this time I am not defenseless. This time I fight back." The night stretched on, Lila wandering the halls, each room a repository of her mother's love. In the study, a wall of photographs chronicled her life, including recent ones of her homelessness. Viviana had watched, prepared. Beneath one lay a document. True love waits at the exit with bandages, knowing some fires must burn to forge strength. As dawn broke, Lila stood resolute. The betrayal had stripped her bare, but in its wake, she found the embers of her true self. Damon's grip had loosened. Now she would dismantle his empire, honoring the woman who never stopped believing. The shadows of betrayal receded, giving way to the light of reclamation. Inside Serafina's warmed car, the heater humming softly against the chill of the night, Lila Voss clutched the thick envelope embossed with her mother's initials. Her fingers, still numb from the cold alley, fumbled with the seal. As she tore it open, a single sheet of paper slipped out, Viviana's elegant handwriting dancing across the page in flowing script. "My child, if you are reading this, I have departed, but you are homeward bound, that is my sole wish. Do not drown in guilt or regret. Live as the fierce woman I always knew you to be, beneath his illusions. My conditions are not punishment. They are your map back to yourself. I love you beyond measure, always have, always will, Mama." The words pierced Lila like shards of glass, each embedding deeper into her heart. Tears blurred the ink, but she wiped them away, forcing herself to read on. Viviana's backstory unfolded in her mind like a faded tapestry, woven from tales told during long evenings in the villa's library. Born in a small village in southern Italy, Viviana had fled poverty and war as a young girl, arriving in America with nothing but a sewing kit and unyielding determination. She built Voss elegance from scratch, starting in a dingy basement apartment where she stitched dresses by candlelight. Her designs, infused with Italian motifs of resilience, swirling patterns inspired by ancient olive groves and the rugged Amalfi Coast, captured the hearts of the elite. Each collection was a testament to her journey, blending old-world craftsmanship with modern flair, turning her immigrant struggles into symbols of empowerment. Lila recalled the arguments that had driven them apart. Viviana's voice, thick with her lingering accent, pleaded during their last confrontation. "Do not marry that man, Lila. He is a deceiver. He will shatter you one day. If you proceed, you will inherit nothing." But Lila, intoxicated by Damon's whirlwind courtship, lavish dinners, private jets, promises of a shared empire, had dismissed it as jealousy. Damon Hale came from old money, his family's legacy steeped in corruption. His father, Harlan Hale, a former judge infamous for rigged rulings that favored the wealthy, had groomed Damon to crave control. Harlan's scandals, buried under layers of payoffs and threats, had warped his son into a manipulator who viewed relationships as acquisitions. Lila had ignored the signs, Damon's subtle digs at her independence, his insistence on managing her finances, his isolation of her from friends under the pretext of protection. As the car glided through the city, neighborhoods shifting from desolate to affluent, Serafina precisely outlined the inheritance. "Your mother left explicit instructions. I was to find you personally, no matter where you were. The villa on Evergreen Heights, where you grew up amidst gardens of imported Italian roses, is yours." The vintage Aston Martin she bought to celebrate Voss Elegance's breakthrough collection. Her personal fortune, investments, and the company itself. Conservative estimates place it at $600 million. Lila stared out the window, the absurdity of it all crashing over her. Hours ago she had been digging through trash. Now this woman spoke of wealth beyond imagination. She said if I married him I would get nothing. She made me choose. Serafina's gaze met hers in the rearview mirror. She hoped the ultimatum would wake you when love could not. When you married anyway, she did not stop loving you. She began planning for this day. However, some conditions are significant and non-negotiable. First, you must revive Voss Elegance. The company has declined since your absence, lost clients, departed designers, and a tarnished reputation. You have 1 year to restore it to profitability and creative prominence. Lila's hands shook as she flipped through photographs in the envelope. The villa's sunlit ateliers, bustling with models and fabrics. The gardens where she and Viviana had sketched under blooming wisteria, drawing inspiration from Italian folklore. The second condition is more intricate, Serafina continued, her tone sharpening. The Hale family has been systematically targeting the historic district around the villa. Damon's development firm aims to demolish irreplaceable buildings, homes with roots in immigrant communities like your mother's, to erect soulless luxury towers. Viviana spent her final years fighting to preserve it, channeling her history of displacement into activism. She wants you to finish that battle. Hearing Damon's name was like a slap. He began acquisitions right after your divorce, Serafina added. Some see it as revenge against Viviana for exposing his manipulations and trying to shield you. Rage surged through Lila, hot and clarifying. And all those years defending him, believing his twisted narratives, letting him paint Viviana as overbearing. While she had been isolated in their marble prison, he had plotted against an ailing woman whose only crime was maternal love. "If I meet these conditions, is the estate entirely mine?" Serafina nodded. "Fail, and it all goes to charities supporting abused women and historic preservation." Causes close to her heart. She knew you needed more than money, purpose, a reminder of your worth before he erased it. As the villa came into view, its stone facade illuminated like a fairy tale fortress. Lila's phone buzzed ominously. A message from Damon. "Heard of your windfall. Congratulations. Remember, our marriage built something together. I expect fair compensation. My lawyer will contact you soon. Let us handle this maturely." The audacity fueled her resolve. He could not even allow her this moment of revelation without injecting his poison. Serafina handed her an ornate key. "We will discuss legalities tomorrow. Tonight, rest. Your mother left letters throughout the house. Find them when ready." Stepping inside, the grand foyer familiarized Lila. Marble floors gleaming under crystal chandeliers, walls adorned with original artworks from Viviana's circle of Italian expatriate artists. Nothing had changed. It was as if Viviana had preserved a sanctuary of hope. Mira appeared, guiding her upstairs with gentle insistence. "Your room is as you left it." On the bed lay fresh clothes and another note. "My darling, the conditions are your rebirth. Use them to reclaim what he stole, your fire, your creativity." Lila held it close, tears flowing not in sorrow, but in dawning understanding. Her mother had loved her enough to let her fall, knowing true strength emerged from ashes. Unable to sleep, Lila wandered the halls. The music room echoed with ghosts of charity concerts Viviana hosted for immigrant causes. The library shelves groaned with books on Italian history and design, where they had spent rainy days dreaming. In the dining room, memories of family feasts surfaced, with Viviana's stories of her village, teaching Lila the value of roots. A wall of photographs awaited in Viviana's study. Lila's birthdays, graduations, and her first amateur fashion show. But one recent image chilled her. A distant shot of Lila outside a shelter, postured defiant despite hollow eyes. Beneath it, a document in Serafina's script captured Viviana's voice. "My daughter thought I abandoned her with that ultimatum, but true love stands at the exit with water and bandages, waiting for the fire's end. I waited, Lila. I prepared everything for your rise." The whispers from the past grew louder. Viviana's legacy not just wealth, but a blueprint for vengeance and renewal. As dawn painted the sky, Lila vowed silently, "I will meet your conditions, Mama. I will dismantle his world as he tried to dismantle mine." The battlefield was set, the inheritance her weapon. Damon's threat loomed, but so did her awakening. This was no mere fortune, a call to arms, echoing from a mother's unyielding heart. The villa emerged from the misty night like a sentinel of forgotten grandeur, its stone arches and ivy-clad walls bathed in soft floodlights that seemed to pulse with anticipation. Lila Voss stepped out of the car, the gravel crunching under her worn shoes, each step pulling her deeper into a world she had abandoned. The air carried the faint scent of blooming jasmine, a fragrance Viviana had imported from Italy to remind them of her homeland's resilient gardens. As the front door swung open, figures emerged, their silhouettes framed by the warm glow from within. Mira, the housekeeper who had been with the family since Lila's first cries echoed through these halls, rushed forward with arms outstretched. "Child, oh child, we thought we had lost you forever. Welcome home." Her embrace was fierce, maternal, carrying the weight of years spent in quiet vigil. Mira's story is intertwined with the Voss legacy. Orphaned young in Italy, she crossed oceans with Viviana, becoming not just staff but confidant, and her loyalty was forged in shared hardships. Thorne, the estate manager, stood nearby, his posture rigid from a military past that had taught him to safeguard what mattered. "Miss Voss, your mother never ceased preparing for this. Everything is ready." Tears traced his weathered face, betraying the stoicism he wore like armor. Thorne's backstory added layers. A veteran who found purpose in Viviana's employ after war left him adrift, his security skills now vital against threats like Damon's encroaching empire. Then Ilara stepped forward, her expression a mask of professional distance edged with wariness. "I am Ilara Voss, your cousin. We met briefly in childhood before you left." Lila vaguely remembered a wide-eyed teen, starry with dreams of fashion, idolizing Viviana's path. Now, Ilara was a woman tempered by fire, her gaze hardened by the burdens she had shouldered. Rescued by Viviana from poverty after her parents' tragic accident in a factory collapse, tied to Harlan Hale's corrupt oversight of safety regulations, Ilara had been given a new life. She poured her education, earned through Viviana's scholarships, into managing Voss Elegance, preserving its Italian-infused designs amid declining fortunes. "I have been steering what remains of Voss Elegance," Ilara said, her tone clipped but not unkind. "We should convene tomorrow. You must grasp the dire state before committing to salvation." She turned away, retreating into the house without further words. "Do not take it personally," Mira whispered, her hand on Lila's arm. "She has carried immense weight, grieving while safeguarding your mother's vision. She will warm in time." Serafina handed Lila the ornate key, its weight symbolic. "This house is yours now. I will return at dawn to detail the legal framework. Tonight, rest. Your mother scattered letters throughout. Seek them when your heart is ready." As the others dispersed, Lila stood alone in the grand foyer. The marble floors gleamed under crystal chandeliers, casting prisms of light that danced like memories. Original paintings lined the walls, many of which were by Viviana's circle of Italian artists who had fled tyrannies similar to those the Hales represented. Nothing had altered. It was a museum to hope, curated by a mother who refused to let go. Mira reappeared, insisting on guiding Lila upstairs. The bedroom was preserved impeccably, down to the sketchbook on the nightstand, its pages yellowed with age. Fresh linens and clothes awaited, alongside a note in Viviana's hand. "My darling girl, if you read this, I am gone, but you are home. Waste no time on guilt. Live. Be the woman I knew beneath his lies. The conditions are your guide back to self. I love you eternally, Mama." Lila pressed the note to her chest, tears flowing in quiet release. Not the raw sobs of the alley, but a cleansing understanding. Viviana had loved her enough to enforce distance, knowing some lessons demanded pain to embed. She stood under the shower's cascade, watching grime and shame swirl down the drain. The towels enveloped her in softness she had forgotten, the clothes fitting as if tailored yesterday. In the mirror, her reflection showed a gaunt woman, but her eyes held a spark absent for years: determination. Sleep eluded her, so she wandered the mansion's labyrinthine halls. Each room unlocked secrets. The music room, where Viviana hosted concerts raising funds for immigrant causes, still held her grand piano, keys worn from melodies of solace. The library, shelves bursting with tomes on Italian history and design, where they had debated art's power to heal societal wounds. The dining room, scene of feasts blending Italian cuisine with American innovation, echoes laughter that once drowned out Harlan's distant threats. In Viviana's study, the heart of the house, Lila discovered the photo wall, a chronicle of her life. Joyful birthdays, proud graduations, and high school fashion debut. But a recent image stopped her, Lila outside a shelter, face hollow yet unbowed. Beneath it lay a document echoing Viviana's voice. "My daughter believed my ultimatum was abandonment. She thought love meant accepting destruction, but true love waits with bandages after the inferno. I prepared for your return, knowing his lies would crumble. Come back to yourself, that is all I ask." Her phone, charging for the first time in weeks, buzzed. Damon's number. "Heard about your good fortune. Congratulations. Remember our shared life. My support during those years has value. My lawyer will reach out soon. Let us resolve this maturely." Rage trembled her hands. He intruded even here, poisoning her grief. Another alert was a formal and intimidating email from his firm. Notice of legal action, Hale versus Voss estate. Mr. Damon Hale seeks equitable compensation from the inheritance of his former spouse, Lila Voss. Claim: substantial marital support entitles him to 50% of the assets. Hearing scheduled. Counsel advised. Lila sank into Viviana's chair, surrounded by evidence of enduring love, staring at threats from the man who had stolen so much. But something shifted. She was no longer the broken shell he discarded. She was Viviana Voss's daughter, and she was in Viviana Voss's home, armored by Viviana Voss's strength. Calling Serafina, heedless of the hour, she demanded, "Detail the legal team my mother built. Damon Hale has declared war, and this time, I fight back." As the conversation unfolded, Serafina revealed Viviana's foresight. A network of attorneys specializing in abuse cases, informed by real precedents like the 2024 Coercive Control Act expansions. Dawn crept in, illuminating the study. Lila rose, resolving to steel herself. The House of Secrets had unveiled its truths, not just inheritance, but a fortress of legacy. Damon's demands were the first skirmish. She would meet Viviana's conditions, revive the company with Ilara's aid, and preserve the district against Hale's greed. Harlan's corruption, once buried, would surface through Isolda's impending dossier. Whispers from the past fortified her. Viviana's voice in every creak of the floorboards, urging her forward. Lila stepped into the garden, the first light gilding the Italian roses. Here, secrets transformed into power. The war had begun, but in this house, she was unbreakable. The courtroom hummed with electric tension, the air thick with the scent of polished wood and anxious whispers. Lila Voss sat rigidly in her seat, her hands clasped tightly to steady the tremor within. Across the aisle, Damon Hale lounged with calculated ease, his expensive suit tailored to perfection, flanked by Elias Crow, his lawyer, whose reputation for ruthless precision preceded him. Elias rose first, his voice smooth as silk yet sharp as a blade, painting Damon as the devoted husband wronged by fate. "Your Honor, this case boils down to equity. My client, Mr. Hale, dedicated years to supporting his wife during her self-imposed estrangement from her family. He provided shelter, financial security, and emotional anchorage when her mother turned her back. Now, the defendant reaps an inheritance of staggering proportions, wealth she did nothing to cultivate, while my client, who stood by her through genuine adversity, receives zilch. We seek not charity but acknowledgement that marriage is a partnership, and sacrifices therein merit recompense." Lila's jaw tightened as Elias wove his narrative, twisting facts into a tapestry of victimhood. Damon's eyes met hers briefly, a smug glint betraying his confidence. But Serafina Locke stood with quiet authority, her rebuttal a masterclass in dismantling illusions. "Your Honor, Mr. Crow crafts a compelling tale, but let us ground it in reality. Lila Voss did not sever ties through caprice. She was methodically isolated by a spouse who recognized her mother as the sole voice piercing his veil of control. Serafina moved with commanding grace, placing documents before Judge Ilara Kane, whose fair-minded rulings had earned her respect in circles combating domestic abuse. Viviana Voss did not abandon her daughter. She refused to fund an abusive dynamic where resources would fall under Mr. Hale's dominion. It was desperate love, not desertion. The moment Mr. Hale initiated divorce, stripping Lila of all marital assets and rendering her homeless, Viviana began orchestrating her daughter's reclamation. Serafina unveiled a letter, penned by Viviana post-divorce. Explicit conditions designed not for punishment, but to rebuild self-worth eroded by years of manipulation. As for Mr. Hale's purported support, we will prove it was control masquerading as care, restricted employment, monitored finances, and psychological warfare. Support and domination are not synonyms. Judge Kane examined the evidence meticulously, her expression thoughtful. "Mr. Crow, you request depositions." "Yes, Your Honor. Household staff and associates can illuminate the mother-daughter rift, pertinent to inheritance validity." "Objection," Serafina interjected firmly. "The deceased's testamentary rights are absolute. This court cannot second-guess them." Judge Kane ruled that limited depositions were permitted, but were confined to the marriage and claimed support. No inquisition into a dead woman's choices. Understood. As the session adjourned, Elias passed Lila's table, his pace slowing. Their eyes locked momentarily, a flicker crossing his features, not pity, but recognition of shared shadows. Elias's backstory simmered beneath, son of a prominent attorney whose private cruelty mirrored Damon's. His mother's silent suffering a ghost that haunted his conscience. Then he was gone, leaving Lila unsettled. Outside, reporters swarmed. Damon performed for the cameras, arm possessively around Arya, his tone laced with faux concern. I cherished my ex-wife. This is about principle, honoring commitments through dark times. Serafina shielded Lila, deflecting queries with poise, but the performance gnawed at her. Back at the villa, Thorne prepared tea in the conservatory, its glass walls overlooking gardens Viviana had cultivated with Italian heirloom plants. Mira hovered, her worry palpable until Serafina suggested privacy. Serafina warned that the depositions would be grueling. Elias excels at twisting loyalty into suspicion. Mira, Thorne, Ilera, they will endure scrutiny of every painful detail. Lila stared into her cup. He aims to prove me unworthy, that I abandoned her for him, then returned solely for fortune. Precisely. We must brace for the emotional toll. These people protected you, now their pain resurfaces under hostile fire. Lila rose, gazing at the garden's meticulous paths. My mother granted 1 year to salvage her company and thwart his development. He will prolong litigation, entangle the estate, and render conditions unattainable. That seems his ploy. Then we accelerate. I need Ilera now, to fathom Voss Elegance's depths. I need allies to combat the demolition. We rebuild amid his assaults. Serafina's faint smile held approval. Viviana would beam with pride. That is the spirit she envisioned. Late that night, sleep evading her, Lila entered Viviana's bedroom, a space she had avoided. Everything remained pristine. Perfume vials on the vanity, their scent evoking Italian summers. A book on the nightstand, slippers by the bed, as if Viviana might return. On the desk, letters tied with faded ribbon, addressed to Lila, were never sent. She read them sequentially, Viviana chronicling her illness, the district's peril, Voss Elegance's fade, all underpinned by boundless love for her wayward daughter. I saw you today, my darling, outside that shelter on Elm Street, so weary yet unbroken. I yearn to rush to you, but you are not ready. He must shatter the illusion fully. It agonizes me, but I vow to wait. Come when prepared, I will be here eternally. The date, mere weeks before death, revealed Viviana's vigil amid her own suffering. A noise at the door. Elara, expression layered. Mira said you were awake. I could not sleep either. May I enter? It was your mother's room. You have every right. Elara hesitated. Not true, she was your mother. This was always your home. I merely held the fort while you were absent. I am sorry, Lila said, the apology raw yet essential, for abandoning, for choosing him over all that mattered. Do not apologize yet. Ilera's voice edged sharp. You do not reclaim forgiveness instantly. Viviana fought for years to salvage your legacy while you were ensnared. Lila absorbed the truth like blows. You are right. But Ilera softened. She planned for you, ceaselessly. We debated the will's conditions. She ensured your return would be whole, not superficial. I scarcely know who that is anymore. Then we uncover it together. Tomorrow, I reveal Voss Elegance's grim reality. It will sting, but salvation demands truth. After Ilera departed, Lila retrieved her old sketchpad, drawing for the first time in years. Lines faltered initially, then flowed. A gown with bold lines, powerful, armor for battle. Her phone buzzed, unknown number. Against instinct, she read, I hope you see this need not be adversarial. We shared meaningful years, Lila. I seek fairness. Dismiss your counsel, let us discuss reasonably. No need for ugliness. Elias Crow. Contacting her directly breached ethics. She should report it. Instead, she analyzed. Phrasing hinted at a personal stake beyond duty. She deleted it, but lingered on the implication. Elias might doubt his client's sanctity. If so, a vulnerability to exploit. Not in him per se, but in his case's certainty. Sleep claimed her as dawn neared, sketchpad brimming with warrior designs. Tomorrow brought depositions and the dissection of loved one's pain. But she had endured worse, Damon himself. Fear receded, resolve reigned. The war of laws had erupted, battle lines drawn in courtrooms and hearts. Lila, once adrift, now anchored by Viviana's secrets, prepared to counterstrike. Damon's empire, built on deception, faced its reckoning. In this arena, truth would prevail. The deposition room was a sterile chamber of psychological siege, its windowless walls amplifying the hum of fluorescent lights that cast pallid shadows over everyone present. Lila Voss sat at the long table, her fingers interlaced to mask the anxiety coiling in her gut. Across from her, Mira sat composed yet vulnerable, her hands folded with the dignity of a lifetime serving the Voss family. Elias Crow began his interrogation with feigned gentleness, a tactic more insidious for its subtlety. "Mrs. Mira Rossi, how long have you served the Voss household?" "I arrived when Lila was an infant," Mira replied steadily. "I've remained ever since." "So you observed her upbringing, youth, and choice to wed my client?" "Yes." "And you witnessed the rift between mother and daughter over that union?" Mira's spine straightened. "I saw a young woman ensnared by the wrong man, and her mother striving desperately to shield her." "Answer directly, Mrs. Rossi," Elias corrected, his politeness a veiled blade. "Did you observe conflicts regarding the marriage?" "Viviana sought to protect her daughter from peril. Any mother would. By threatening disinheritance? By refusing to enable her child's ruin." Elias jotted notes, his pen scratching like a verdict. "Did Lila reach out to her mother during the marriage?" "Not that I know. No calls, no letters, no reconciliation attempts over those years." Mira's facade cracked, tears streaming down her cheeks. She tried initially, calling incessantly, penning heart-wrenching pleas, but Viviana rejected them while that man lingered. It nearly destroyed her to repel her child, but she believed it was the sole path to clarity. So Viviana Voss deliberately cut communication. She refused to witness her daughter's systematic dismantling while feigning normalcy. How did Viviana respond to news of the divorce? Mira's body shook. She was hospitalized, gravely ill. Learning Lila was discarded, homeless, she discharged herself against medical advice. She returned home, planning obsessively day and night to retrieve Lila, safeguard her, and instill reasons for living. She exhausted herself crafting those inheritance stipulations. She perished amid preparations for her daughter's future. Lila could bear no more. She bolted from the room, chair scraping harshly, pressing her forehead to the cold hallway wall, breaths ragged. "I killed her," she whispered. "My blindness, my obstinacy." "No," Serafina's voice cut like steel. "Her illness claimed her. You did not cause it. They aim to drown you in guilt, impairing your fight. How can I endure their dissection of my harm to her? Because victory demands it. Viviana knew you would confront every failure and press on." They returned as Thorne's deposition commenced. He sat erect, expression veiled, but Lila sensed his underlying sorrow. "Mr. Thorne Beaumont, you oversaw Viviana Voss's affairs and estate." "I did." "Depict the estate's financial condition during Lila's absence." Thorne's tone remained even. Miss Viviana prioritized Voss Elegance's survival over personal ease. She secured loans against the villa, sold cherished artifacts, and even redirected medical funds to payroll. Why such sacrifices? Because the company was Lila's inheritance. She held unshakable faith in her daughter's return, needing a meaningful anchor. She constructed a bridge homeward. Did Viviana voice anger at her daughter for desertion? Never. Thorne's response was swift. Grief that pierced deeply, worry that stole sleep, and desperate, unconditional love. But no rage. She repeated, "Lila is enchanted. She will awaken, and all must await." Elias paused, doubt flickering across his face, a crack in his armor, born from his mother's echoed suffering. "Did you encounter Damon personally?" "Once. He stormed the villa post-wedding, demanding Viviana. She declined. He grew aggressive, threatening staff, rage barely leashed. I ejected him forcibly." "What is the nature of his threats?" "He accused Viviana of alienating his wife and meddling. He vowed she would regret it. Furious over the closed trust fund Lila once accessed." There was a trust fund. Elias's surprise seemed authentic, as if withheld from his brief. Yes, substantial, established at Lila's birth. Upon learning Damon attempted access, Viviana sealed her wedding day, claiming wifely financial oversight for protection. She declared she would incinerate every cent before he touched it. Damon's attorneys objected, deeming it irrelevant, but Elias silenced them, pursuing the thread, his conscience stirring, memories of his father's similar ploys surfacing. When Alara's session arrived, tension thickened like fog. She sat with contained fury, poised for reckoning. "Miss Lila Voss, you are the defendant's cousin, managing Voss Elegance remnants. Yes, depict the company's plight. Ravaged. Major accounts vanished. Top designers fled. Reputation in tatters. We scrape by on loyal patrons recalling our heyday. Declines onset? Ilara locked eyes with Damon. Roughly a year post-marriage, suppliers abruptly ceased dealings. Clients evaporated, loans denied inexplicably. Investigations revealed deliberate sabotage aligned with the union. Serious claims, evidence, testimonies from suppliers lured by Hale Enterprises' superior terms for dropping us. Emails from ex-clients admitting pressure. A trail matching Lila's marriage to your client. Elias stilled. You accuse my client of intentional destruction. Do not accuse, state facts. Damon viewed Lila's family as a barrier to dominance. He ensured no refuge if she fled, erasing her legacy while dismantling her identity. These allegations are grave. Then query your client. Alara's words carried years' weight. Ask why Viviana battled his development ceaselessly. Why did he hasten plans post-divorce? Why does he claim inheritance? He sabotaged it to block. Chaos ensued. Damon's team demanded the exclusion of Alara's proofs as inflammatory. Serafina argued relevance to proper support versus sabotage. Judge Kane would rule later, but the narrative shifted. Damon is a predator, not a provider. Lila sifted through Viviana's sketches in the villa's atelier that evening. Patterns emerged, each piece named for Lila's life moments. First steps, garden dreams, teaching my daughter vision. Every design is a maternal ode. Ilara found her amid tears. She never ceased loving you. Every collection channeled you, even absent. How do I amend this? You cannot undo time, but honor by defending her creation and being the daughter she envisioned beneath Damon's veil. They labored through the night, Ilara imparting operations, lost clients, loyal remnants, and financial brink. Without swift capital and patrons, collapse loomed months away. Why persist? Lila asked at dawn. You could abandon, forge anew, because it mattered more than her life. She entrusted me to guard until your return. Legacies warrant sacrifice. She proved by toiling to death for you. Besides, I refuse Damon's spiteful victory. A knock interrupted. Mira with sustenance, face troubled. Miss Lila, a visitor, claims urgency. She is Isolde Fairmont, Viviana's dearest ally. Isolde swept in, silver-haired and regal, her presence commanding. You resemble her, Viviana in youth, sure to reshape the world with design and grit. Isolde's assessing gaze softened. Viviana phoned me pre-death, detailing the will, her aspirations for you, and the impending strife. She bid me aid if you accepted. I merit no help. I forsook her. You were ensnared by a predator exploiting your loyalty. Viviana comprehended. She blamed not you. Isolde hardened. But work awaits. The Hales blight this community long. Harlan's corruption, his wife's punitive charities, siblings' media spins. Know them? I battled them for years, halting prior demolitions. Now, you stand against. Isolde placed a dossier, decades Hale misdeeds, bribes, manipulations, improprieties, actionable and exposable. Use wisely. Why me? Viviana was my sister in spirit for 40 years. I witnessed her anguish over you and held her at the end. Her last words, tell my daughter her strength exceeds knowing. Fight. So fight, Lila. After Isolde left, Lila pored over pages. Verified corruption tying Harlan's judicial fixes to Damon's schemes. An ally's arsenal. Serafina called urgently. Damon motions an emergency asset freeze, alleging instability from homelessness and hearing tomorrow. Lila eyed the dossier, and Alara watched with hope. Then we labor swiftly. I refuse to lose, to him, his kin, ever again. The testimonies had bloodied, but fortified. Truth's wounds healed stronger. Damon Hale escalated his assault with brutal cunning, filing an emergency motion to freeze Lila Voss's inheritance pending the case's resolution. His argument painted her as unstable, citing her months of homelessness as evidence of mental fragility unfit for managing vast wealth. Photographs surfaced in court. Grainy images of Lila huddled outside shelters, rummaging through bins, her face etched with despair. There were no accidents. Damon's operatives had shadowed her, documenting her nadir to weaponize it now. The courtroom filled with murmurs as Evander Cross, Damon's new specialist attorney, replacing Elias after his growing doubts, presented with theatrical flair. "Your Honor, we come not to assail Miss Voss, but from genuine concern for her welfare. A woman enduring prolonged homelessness, exposed to trauma's depths, cannot abruptly shoulder hundreds of millions. It would be irresponsible without safeguards." Cross's performance was masterful, cruelty veiled as benevolence, positioning Damon as protector while framing the inheritance as burdensome. Lila's breath caught at the images, each a violation reopening wounds. Serafina Locke rose, her fury controlled beneath professionalism. "Your Honor, Mr. Cross conveniently omits the cause. His client orchestrated the divorce, leaving her destitute, seizing all assets. No concern then. This sudden worry reeks of manipulation. Past dynamics are irrelevant to current competency." Cross countered smoothly. Judge Alara Kane appeared conflicted, her brow furrowed. "Miss Voss, speak directly. How do you address these concerns?" Lila stood, legs unsteady but voice finding steel. "Your Honor, those months devastated me. Lost home, dignity, self. But I retained sanity and survival will. Given resources, I immediately pursued meaningful work. I seek not undue burden, but to honor my mother's wishes. With respect, survival is not competency for complex stewardship," Cross interjected. "Then evaluate her independently, not via biased hirelings," Soren Whitlock interjected. Viviana's retained veteran attorney, his gravelly voice commanding, court-appointed expert, impartial. Meanwhile, freezing serves only to sabotage her conditions. Judge Kane weighed the pleas. "I ordered a psychiatric evaluation by Dr. Elowen Sage, whose credentials are impeccable. No complete freeze. Miss Voss accesses funds for maintenance and operations, but significant outlays are suspended pending results. A compromise thwarting decisive action." Cross smirked in partial victory. Outside, the media hounded. "Miss Voss, doubt your stability? Fear evaluation deems you unfit?" Soren cleared paths, his protectiveness fierce. In the car, Lila shattered. "They will strip everything, prove me mad, lose her company, home, all she bequeathed." "No," Serafina affirmed. "Dr. Sage is thorough, fair, and intolerant of games. Be truthful, she will see your fortitude." Dr. Sage's office was a neutral sanctuary, comfortable yet professional, overlooking manicured gardens. The doctor, kind-eyed and non-judgmental, clarified, "This is no trap. I assess your state, decision capacity, and stress management. I have reviewed files. Tell your story." For hours, Lila poured out. Marriage's slow erosion, Damon's isolation disguised as care, financial rains as protection, divorce's destitution, but also rebirth. Viviana's letters unveiling love's depth, homelessness forging clarity, stripping illusions. Dr. Sage noted without interruption, expression opaque. "Detail your projects." Lila described reviving Voss elegance with Alara, sketches honoring Italian motifs while innovating, battling development with community leaders, and drawing on Viviana's activism roots. "How do you feel about Damon now?" Sad, profoundly, for loving someone who saw me as a possession, not a person. Sorry for lost years, but unafraid, uncontrolled. His power was an illusion I embraced. Dr. Sage nodded. Mature perspective. Self-harm thoughts? During homelessness, yes. Nights wishing non-existence. No longer. Now anger fuels determination. He takes nothing more. Sessions span days. Sleep, habits, relationships probed, trauma triggers, coping unpacked. Between, Lila immersed in work. The fashion tribute collection coalesced. Viviana's designs were reimagined with a contemporary edge, and Italian patterns symbolized resilience. Risky, costly, essential for revival. Ilara collaborated ceaselessly, resentment yielding to partnership. Your mother would adore these, Ilara said, reviewing. Her essence, your voice, what she dreamed. I await spectacular failure, proving cross-right. Cease anticipating doom, believe what we see. Strength surpassing imagination. Late one night in the atelier, amid sketches, a knock echoed, the mansion's side door. Thorn and Mira were asleep. Instincts screamed caution, yet Lila answered. Elias stood disheveled, tie askew, eyes heavy with burden. I know I should not be here, this breaches every ethic, but I could not stay silent. Lila tensed. What? I quit the case, told Damon I cannot represent him further. Shocked, she demanded, why? Depositions detailed his atrocities, evidence of sabotage while claiming support. I have a conscience. Ignoring it cost my soul. So you assuage guilt. Help however you allow. He proffered a file. Hail developments, truths, cut corners, bribed officials, community harm. I cannot give an official license risk. But why trust you if it is found on your step? You should not. Trust earns time, but Isolde visited, recounting Viviana's fight. Asked, who do you aspire to be? Enabler or opposer? I answer through deeds. He placed the file, turning. Wait. If sincere, I need strategic insight, his tactics, weaknesses, without further compromise. I can attempt. Attend the show next week, not as foe or counsel, but witness to its meaning. Elias nodded, vanishing into the night. Lila examined the file. Damning, bribes, violations, intimidations. Enough to halt developments. Using it meant trusting Elias, a recent adversary. Redemption possible or trap? Dawn brought Dr. Sage's message. Evaluation complete. Report files tomorrow. Speak personally first. Moment of truth. Strength seen or mere damage. At Viviana's portrait, Lila sought solace. Hope I proved worthy, Mama. The painting was silent, but the morning light on the sketches infused determination. Whatever verdict, fight persisted. Viviana's lesson through will's rigors. Some battles demand uncertainty. Dr. Sage's office felt warmer, sun filtering through leaves. I wished for a private discussion pre-filing. In 20 years, I have evaluated countless trauma survivors. Yours reveals complex PTSD from sustained abuse. Lila's breath hitched, but also remarkable resilience, active recovery, healthy mechanisms, and supportive bonds. You channel pain into creation, not vengeance. So I am fit? Extraordinarily so. The report affirms managed symptoms, sound decisions, and no risk. Do you have suggestions otherwise? Ignorance or malice? Relief flooded Lila. Thank you for the truth. My duty. But note, recommend investigating Damon's coercive control, hallmarks of calculated abuse. The report's filing ignited a media frenzy. Headlines shifted. Expert IDs abuse in Hail marriage. Damon's team decried bias, but Dr. Sage's repute held. The fashion show loomed, and the venue was the historic Beaumont Hotel, which was slated for demolition. The symbolism was potent. The night before, a package. Viviana's heirloom necklace, shredded violently. Note in Damon's script, you raised what I cherished. I will demolish your rebuilds. Thorne urged police to obtain a restraint order for Serafina. Lila, staring at fragments, found clarity. Document. Add to evidence. He exposes himself. He craves my fear. I deny it. Show day dawned crisp. Backstage, models prepped. Lila sensed Viviana's presence. Collection narrated. Innocence in soft Italian silks, entrapment in constrictive forms, triumph in armored elegance. Ilara beside her. Packed house, editors, influencers, entire Hale clan front row. Perfect. Let them witness. Lights dimmed, music swelled. Innocence flowed first. Gentle hues evoking childhood gardens. The audience murmured. Shift to darkness. Fabrics heavy, silhouettes binding, metaphors unsubtle. Understanding rippled. Finale erupted. Bold colors, sharp lines, dresses declaring unapologetic power. Standing ovation thundered. Lila bowed, cameras flashing. Spotting Damon, rage contorted his face. He grasped the narrative, unnamed yet exposed. His mother, Elowen, watched calculatingly. His sister, Sable, typed furiously. His brother, Finn, was stricken, as if awakening. Elias at the back nodded respect, eyes meeting hers in complex accord. Backstage, orders surged, exclusives vied. Voss elegance resurrected. But triumph hollow, Damon's threat lingered. She was right. Alarms blared, smoke acrid. Evacuation is orderly, but the fire's intent is clear. The department confirmed sabotage. Wiring was tampered with for a delayed blaze. Footage showed a figure, identification elusive. Damon claimed restroom absence. That night, in ravaged calm, Serafina noted, escalating. He unravels. Good. Public slips bolster us. Unless he succeeds in harming, then hasten. Present corruption to the council within a week. Using Elias's intel is risky legally. As a concerned citizen witnessing crime, I know it negates privilege. A door sound. Elias was admitted by Thorne and heard the sabotage. Offer aid, you persist. Helping risk careers. Elias met her gaze, watched my mother endure my father's cruelty, respected publicly, tyrannical privately. She stayed, convinced of her worthlessness, and died blaming herself. Depositions echoed her. I saw what aid might have changed. Cannot save her, but you, yes. Lila studied him. Grief, guilt, and a redemption quest. Helping will not undo the past, but it might save me from becoming him. Serafina interjected. If collaborating, ground rules. No privileged info, only crimes nullifying secrecy. Agreed. They worked till dawn, compiling a case against developments, bribes, falsified reports, intimidations, with Isolde's dossier, testimonies. Enough to halt, trigger probes. As light broke, Lila's phone rang. Arya, voice terror-stricken. Need help. In labor, he pushed me downstairs during an argument over the show. Terrified, he returns. I am en route. To Serafina, Elias. Arya at the hospital. Damon pushed her. A trap, possible. Or another escaping his clutches. I go, Viviana would. Elias, I accompany, for safeguard. At the hospital, Arya is on monitors, face swollen from pain, tears. You came, I doubted. Tell all. Story tumbled. Charm to isolation, criticisms to control, verbal to physical escalation. Tonight, he praised your show. He raged and accused you of betrayal. Grabbed, pushed when I resisted. Fell stairs. The baby was premature as a result. He loomed, this for siding against me. Left, I called for aid alone. Lila took her hand. Sorry, I know this intimately. He claimed you fabricated to steal. Believed because loved. But your show revealed lies. If about you, about all. Press charges. Document. Scared, his power. Diminishing. Not alone, I aid. You and the baby are safe. Hours later, Arya's daughter was born healthy, despite the ordeal. Lila at the nursery window, Elias beside. You need not help her. Yes, I must. Refusing makes me what he forged. Bitter. Viviana raised better. She did. Outside, Damon arrived. Security barred him. Arya's statement detailed. Elias added a sabotage sighting. Restraint order issued. As escorted out, Damon glimpsed Lila, mouthing venom. This is unfinished. She replied, I know. Wars end when one shatters. And you fracture first. The fashion show pulsed with high stakes. The air electric in the grand ballroom of the historic Rothschild Hotel, a venue slated for demolition under Damon's development plans. The symbolism was deliberate, boldly stating that Voss elegance would not yield to destruction. Lila Voss stood backstage, heart pounding as models prepared, their outfits a narrative woven from her life's tapestry. The collection was a tribute to Viviana, her designs reimagined with contemporary edge, infused with Italian motifs of resilience, olive branch patterns symbolizing enduring strength, architectural lines echoing ancient Roman arches. It was not mere fashion, but testimony in silk and thread, chronicling innocence lost, captivity endured, and triumph reclaimed. Ilara appeared beside her, vibrating with nervous energy. The house is packed, every major editor, society influencer, and the entire Hale clan seated prominently. "Let them watch," Lila replied, her voice steady despite the storm within. The lights dimmed dramatically, the music swelling with emotional depth, a haunting Italian melody remixed with modern beats. The show began. First pieces evoked pure innocence, flowing fabrics in soft pastels, silhouettes whispering of childhood summers in Viviana's gardens, where Lila learned to dream in colors and textures. The audience murmured appreciation, flashes from cameras punctuating the air. Then the collection shifted abruptly. Fabrics grew heavier, darker, more constrained. Elegant bodices transforming into collars that hinted at restraint, sleeves binding like invisible chains. The metaphor landed heavily, beauty concealing captivity, a mirror to Lila's marriage where Damon's control masqueraded as love. Understanding rippled through the crowd. Whispers turned to gasps as the story unfolded wordlessly. The final section burst forth like a declaration of independence. Bold, fearless colors, crimson reds and imperial golds, sharp architectural lines, fabrics that moved like armor, dresses for women reclaiming their power unapologetically. The finale piece stole breaths, a white gown, not bridal fragility, but structural might. Its train embroidered with Italian proverbs of rebirth. The audience surged before the last model exited, applause deafening. Lila stepped out for the bow, the roar intensifying. Critics wiped tears. Editors typed furiously, reviews already forming. She scanned the crowd, locking on Damon, his face twisted in rage. He grasped the indictment, his story laid bare without a name uttered. Elowyn Hale sat nearby, her expression a mix of calculation and reluctant respect. Sable typed on her phone, spinning narratives. Finn looked stricken, as if seeing his family's darkness anew. Then Lila spotted Elias at the room's rear, not noting or photographing, just observing intently. Their eyes met. He nodded subtly. Acknowledgement, respect, perhaps something more profound, unnamed yet. Backstage erupted in chaos. Orders flooded from fashion houses craving the collection, stores bidding for exclusives. In one night, Lila had revived Voss elegance from the brink to an icon. Yet, success felt hollow. Damon's shredded necklace threat loomed, a harbinger of escalation. She was right. As guests departed, fire alarms shrieked. Security evacuated calmly, but acrid smoke confirmed reality. The fire department verified deliberate sabotage. Wiring was manipulated for a slow burn and was undetectable until catastrophic. Had it ignited mid-show, with the packed venue, casualties could have mounted. Footage captured a shadowy figure in the basement, the angle obscuring identity. Damon claimed restroom solitude, no alibis, but no proof against. That night at the villa, Lila stood in the atelier, surrounded by Viviana's preserved sketches and fresh evidence of attempted arson. The contrast was surreal. She turned to Serafina, who had arrived from police consultations. He escalates to mass harm. The necklace intimidated, this aimed to kill. Good, Lila said icily. Let him unravel publicly. Each act fortifies our case, weakens his. Unless he injures someone, then we accelerate. Present corruption to the council imminently. Elias's file and Isolde's are ready in days. But his intel source is legally questionable. As a citizen witnessing crimes, the privilege is voided. A knock. Ilara with updates, but tension spiked at Elias's arrival, admitted by Thorne, and heard the incident. Wished to assist. You keep offering, Lila noted. Helping means destroying a career and reputation. Elias stepped in, mask falling. Watched my mother trapped by my father's cruelty. Public pillar, private monster. She stayed, believing no escape. His control absolute. Died, self-blaming. His voice cracked. Depositions mirrored her. Deline's pain, Ilara's sabotage accounts, your endurance. Saw what intervention might alter. Cannot redeem the past, but aid you. Lila scrutinized. Grief authentic. Guilt palpable. Drive genuine. Will not save her, but might redeem me from his echo. Serafina interposed. If aiding, rules. No client secrets, only crimes overriding privilege. Agreed. They toiled through the night building the development case. Bribes to officials, falsified impacts, coerced residents, merged with Isolde's dossier on Hale scandals, community voices tied to Harlan's judicial fixes. As dawn approached, Lila's phone rang, unknown, but she answered. Arya's voice, fractured terror, need desperate help. In labor, he shoved me up the stairs amid a show of argument. Frightened, he finishes on the way. To others, Arya is hospitalized. Damon pushed her. Trap feasible, Serafina warned, or the victim fleeing. I go, Viviana would help, risk notwithstanding. Elias, I joined for protection. At the hospital, Arya, amid monitors, face bruised, eyes haunted. You came, doubted, recount. Tale spilled, charm to seclusion, friends deemed jealous, critiques on attire, speech, thoughts. Finances scrutinized, purchases interrogated, verbal barbs to shoves. Tonight, he lauded your show. He exploded and accused you of treachery. Grabbed, I pulled, he thrust. Tumbled stairs, felt ripped inside, baby endangered. He loomed, consequence of opposing me. Departed, summoned ambulance solo. Lila clasped her hand, know this hell. He labeled me a deranged thief, believed loved, but the show unveiled lies. If about you, about everything. Charge him, record all. Terrified, his influence, waning, not isolated, I assist, you, child safe. Why? I replaced you, swallowed his tales. None deserves this. Helping transcends him, women defying such men. Hours later, Arya's daughter arrived, a healthy miracle, Lila, at the nursery glass, Elias beside. Need not aid her, must, else become his creation, vindictive. Viviana taught survival demands, assisting others. Raised extraordinarily. Do not romanticize yet, you help from maternal guilt, I accept necessity. No instant alliance. Fair, but neither moved. Damon arrived, security halted. Arya's bruises matched the account. Elias's sabotage witness added. Restraint order granted. Escorted out, Damon spied Lila, mouthing, unfinished. She retorted, no, wars conclude on breakage. Yours commences. The architecture of lies crumbled. Damon's facade fracturing, truths emerging like light through cracks. Lila, fortified by allies old and new, prepared for the subsequent strikes. Viviana's legacy, love refusing enablement, guided her. In the hospital's quiet, newborn's cries heralded hope amid ruins. Arya's testimony unfolded in a sealed hearing, shielded from the media's voracious glare. But Lila Voss sat in the chamber's rear as requested, offering silent solidarity to her unlikely ally. Serafina Locke examined with deliberate gentleness, her questions probing yet compassionate. Miss Turner, describe how you met Damon Hale. Arya's voice, though quiet, held steady resolve at a charity gala. He was charming, successful, and magnetic. He made me feel like the only woman in existence. Within weeks, we were inseparable. When did the dynamic shift? Retrospectively, it altered almost immediately, but I missed it then. He suggested different attire, claiming mine was unfit for his circle. He corrected my public speech, insisting it helped me blend. He introduced me to his family and friends, but discouraged mine, saying they unsettled him vaguely. Did this escalate? Yes. He demanded bank access to manage finances properly. He scanned my phone constantly, preaching transparency in relationships. Anger flared if I met friends sans him. Once, lunch with my sister was unmentioned. He appeared furious, accusing me of deceit and infidelity. Evander Cross objected repeatedly, but Judge Kane, informed by Dr. Sage's report on Lila's parallels, permitted continuation. Miss Turner, you allege grave events on the night of the fashion show. Recount. Aria's hands trembled, but she pressed on. We attended. Damon tensed throughout, fury palpable. Post-show, I praised Lila's work in the car. He detonated, screaming I betrayed her, disrespected him. I tried calming. He gripped my arm bruisingly. She revealed the mark, faded but evident. Home, argument intensified. I urged releasing hatred for Lila. It consumed him. He claimed I misunderstood her poison. I suggested that truth emerged. Then he pushed. I tumbled downstairs, felt an internal tear, and knew the baby was jeopardized. Did he assist? Number. He stood atop, snarling, this for aligning against me, then left. I called the emergency alone. Silence blanketed the room, save for the stenographer's keys. You provided audio of prior incidents. Explain. Serafina played. Damon's voice, cold venom, absent publicly. You are worthless sans me. Grasp that? I could abandon tomorrow. You would have not. No one desires you. Luckily, I tolerate. Another. Cease weeping. Embarrassing. Control or I provide real cause. Another. Transfer that sum. Why does it linger in your account? Stealing? The pattern is irrefutable. Mirroring Lila's ordeal. Tactics eroding self. Fostering dependence. Cross-examined aggressively. Miss Turner, testify for Lila's financial aid? Coordinated assault? Aria met his gaze unflinchingly. Lila offers sanctuary till I stabilize. She did not solicit testimony. I volunteer, saw his deeds to her, attempted on me. Realized unchecked, another follows, then more. Such men do not reform. They seek fresh prey. Cross faltered before that candor. Hearing concluded, Lila waited outside. Aria emerged, exhausted yet lighter, truth's utterance lifting her burden. Thank you for your presence. You were brave, merely truthful. That is bravery, especially painful. Lila paused. I arranged a private and secure guest house for you and your child. Figure out the following steps safely. Cannot accept. You owe nothing. Offer not from debt, but belief. No woman navigates escape fearing for her offspring. Accept. Forward someday. Aria's eyes teared. He called you cold, selfish. Opposite. I am those sometimes, but also Viviana's daughter. She taught that survival is insufficient without aiding others. That night, coverage pivoted. Testimony details leaked, not recordings, protected, but enough to illuminate. Two women, years apart, identical abuse from one man. The Hale family fractured visibly. Elowen stated, after disturbing revelations, I withdraw financial and public support for my son's defense. Maternal love eschews enabling harm. I pray he seeks aid. Calculated salvage of reputation, yet devastating. Elowen controlled key resources. Sans her, Damon's war costlier. Sable was direct. Recent claims about my brother compel acknowledgement on her program. Love family, but cannot be silent while women suffer. To victims of Damon Hale, I believe you. Sorry we failed to protect you. Career-saving, family suicidal, choosing integrity over loyalty. Harlan remained defiant. Post-stroke statement via counsel. My son, a victim of a vindictive conspiracy, disloyal kin. Truth prevails. But solidarity wavered. Finn arrived unannounced. Thorne was hesitant, but Lila met him in the parlor, where Thorne and Elias witnessed. Unlike Damon's sharpness, Finn carried unease and was ill-fitted to family expectations. Know you distrust. I am Hale. Name toxic deservedly. Why here? Lifelong watched father and brother destroy, pretending blindness. Benefited from corruption while claiming clean hands. But silence, complicity. He proffered a folder. All I know of family deeds are Harlan's bench bribes, Damon's company sabotage, and coaching on isolating you. Lila untouched it. Why now, not years ago, sparing Viviana, Aria? Cowardice. Told myself it's not my duty. Profited pretending. But your show, I saw creation from attempted ashes, realized inaction beyond cowardice, complicit in the aftermath. Elias reviewed enough for charges against Harlan, Damon, and Associates. Grasp personal cost, inheritance loss, disownment, industry blocklist, traitor label. Finn met Lila's eyes. But mirror gazing is possible. Someday, aid will be needed against such. I will know how, having finally stood. Your mother, Sable? Elowen saves herself. Sable's career, no judgment, but I salvage soul, if not dramatic. You need a safeguard, counsel, and a haven amid fallout. Not asking. Offer, because Viviana would believe change viable, even late. If she trusted my potential post-errors, I extend to you. Finn's eyes misted, undeserving kindness. Deserving and needing differ. Post-Finn, with assurances of security and representation, Elias and Lila dissected evidence, damning, building an overwhelming case against Hales. Changes everything, Elias said. With Finn's testimony, the DA pursues investigations. Development halts. Conditions met, near default. No default win, they escape consequences. This ensures not. But brace, cornered, they lash fiercest. As if summoned, Lila's phone rang. Damon's voice, rage shaken. Think victory? Turning family, stealing brother's loyalty, erecting an empire on falsehoods. Stripped everything from me. You did that yourself. I survived you, unfinished. Care not about money or property. Ensure you comprehend crossing me. Regret every post-mother choice. Threat? Promise. Call ended. Lila eyed Elias, overhearing. Heightened security. Report to the police. Unraveling. Unpredictable. Dangerous. Sleep evaded. Lila paced, checking locks. Shadows menacing. Zoning hearing next week. Probes opening. Aria is safe yet scarred. Finn betrayed kin. Hale's empire is crumbling. Somewhere, Damon plotted revenge beyond prior cruelties. Viviana's voice echoed at the window. Strength, not fearlessness, but terror met with action. Terrified, Mama, Lila whispered, but ready. Beyond the glass, shadows stirred, unnatural. Lights flickered oddly, threat palpable. Hearing advanced, Harlan's hospital calls leveraging remnants. Emergency meeting. Serafina, Soren, Ilera, Isolda, Elias. Less than 12 hours. Hale's final gambit. As the team assembled in the library, with a frantic strategy, Lila watched the darkness. War climaxed, Damon initiated the final battle's opener. The City Hall chambers thrummed with a tense undercurrent, the air thick with the scent of polished wood and whispered strategies. Lila Voss stood at the podium, her hands steady on the stack of documents that could dismantle Damon Hale's empire. The zoning hearing for Hale Development's demolition project had drawn a crowd. Residents from the historic district, journalists scribbling furiously, and a cadre of Damon's supporters who glared from the back rows. Ever the pillar of composure, Serafina Locke sat beside her, reviewing notes from Isolde Fairmont's dossier. The evidence was damning. Falsified environmental impact reports, coerced signatures from elderly homeowners, and bribes funneled through shell companies tied to Harlan Hale's old judicial cronies. Lila's voice rang clear as she began. This isn't just about buildings. It's about erasing a community's soul. Damon lounged across the aisle, his smirk a mask over the cracks forming in his facade. Elias Crow, once his unyielding advocate, shifted uncomfortably beside him, his briefcase unopened. A subtle sign of the internal storm brewing. The hearing opened with testimonies from the district's residents. An elderly Italian immigrant, Maria Rossi, took the stand first, her accent thick with emotion. She spoke of arriving in the city decades ago, much like Viviana Voss, building a life in the cobblestone streets that now faced the wrecking ball. These walls hold our stories, she said, tears glistening. My bakery, passed from my mother, it's not just brick, it's heritage. Lila followed, weaving in the cultural threads. The district's architecture echoed Tuscan villas, a nod to Viviana's roots, where resilience was etched into every archway. Photos on the screen showed festivals, artisan shops, and the Voss family home that had inspired generations of designers. As the opposition mounted, Damon's team countered with slick presentations, charts promising economic booms, jobs for the displaced. But Lila's rebuttal sliced through. These benefits hide the truth. Look at the reports. Altered data on soil contamination. Ignored historical designations. She cited real legal precedents, like the landmark case in New York, where community heritage trumped corporate greed under preservation laws. The board members nodded, one jotting notes furiously. Tension peaked when a whistleblower, a former Hale engineer named Theo Grant, testified anonymously via video. His backstory emerged in hushed tones. Hired fresh from college, he'd idolized Damon's vision until uncovering the frauds. Intimidation tactics that echoed Harlan's playbook, where judges were bought to greenlight destructive projects. "I couldn't sleep knowing families were bullied out," Theo confessed, his voice distorted but resolute. Elias rose then, his defection a bombshell that rippled through the room. "I can no longer represent Hale Developments in good faith," he declared, his baritone steady despite the sweat on his brow. He nullified attorney-client privilege on grounds of criminal activity, handing over files that detailed everything. Email chains proving sabotage against Voss Elegance suppliers, threats to district holdouts, and even a personal vendetta against Viviana for blocking Harlan's expansions years ago. The crowd gasped. Damon's face drained of color. Elias's eyes met Lila's briefly, a silent apology laced with the weight of his own history, his mother's silent suffering under a domineering father, a mirror to the Hale dynasty's toxicity. "These crimes aren't just business, they're assaults on lives," Elias added, his words igniting murmurs of approval. Damon erupted, slamming his fist on the table. "This is betrayal. She's poisoned everyone, my own lawyer." His rage unraveled him. Mid-tirade, he confessed unwittingly. "Fine, we pushed a few reports, but that district's a relic. Harlan taught me, take what's yours." The admission hung like a noose, exposing years of grooming under his father's shadow. Harlan had molded him into a predator, rewarding manipulation with boardroom conquests and burying ethics in pursuing legacy. The board recessed in chaos, but victory was swift. The project halted indefinitely, fines were levied, and investigations were launched into Hale's broader operations. Cheers erupted from the residents. Lila embraced Maria, feeling Viviana's spirit in the triumph. But as daylight faded, a shadow loomed. Damon's glare promised retribution. That night, the Voss Elegance studio buzzed with quiet celebration. Lila and Ilara pored over sketches, the air scented with fresh fabric and coffee. Thorne patrolled the grounds, his military instincts on high alert, while Mira prepared a late supper, her nurturing presence a balm. Yet peace was shattered with a crash, glass breaking in the design room. Lila rushed in to find Damon amid the wreckage, a crowbar in hand, shredding gowns that symbolized Viviana's legacy, intricate lace patterns inspired by Italian folklore, each stitch a testament to resilience. "You think you've won?" he snarled, his eyes wild, clothes disheveled from evasion. "This is nothing compared to what I'll do." He swung wildly, toppling mannequins dressed in Lila's revival collection, the pieces that had secured orders at the fashion show. Ilara screamed for help. Thorne burst in, tackling Damon amid flying fabric remnants. The struggle was fierce. Damon, fueled by desperation, elbowed free and grabbed a shard of glass, waving it like a weapon. "She took everything from me. My future, my name," he ranted, his breakdown raw. Police sirens wailed closer, summoned by Mira's quick call. Damon bolted through the back, leaving a trail of destruction and a crumpled note on the floor. "If I can't have it, no one will. This ends with me." The words chilled Lila. It wasn't just a threat, it foreshadowed a darker hunt, his fractured mind spiraling towards self-destruction, or worse. Officers arrived, securing the scene, but Damon had vanished into the night, armed and unhinged. Serafina coordinated with authorities, pulling strings from Isolda's network to heighten alerts. Lila sat amid the ruins, clutching a torn sketch, Viviana's original design for her wedding gown, now symbolic of betrayal. Tears fell, but resolve hardened. This invasion wasn't defeat, but fuel. Elias arrived soon after, his concern etching lines on his face. "I should have seen this coming," he murmured, helping clear debris. Their hands brushed, a spark amid the chaos, hinting at budding trust from shared battles. As dawn broke, Lila vowed silently. The city-shattering trial was just the beginning. Damon's empire lay in tatters, but the personal war raged on, demanding she harness every ounce of Viviana's unyielding fire to protect what remained. In the days that followed, the fallout rippled. Media swarmed, headlines blaring, Hail Air's meltdown, zoning debacle exposes corruption. Residents rallied, forming a preservation committee with Lila at the helm, channeling Italian community bonds into advocacy. Ilara, her guarded demeanor softening, shared stories of Viviana's early struggles, fleeing poverty in Sicily, sewing by candlelight to build an empire. It mirrored Lila's rebirth, turning pain into purpose. Dr. Eloan Sage scheduled emergency sessions, unpacking the trauma. This invasion is his last grasp at control. "You're breaking the cycle." Lila nodded, sketching anew, infusing designs with motifs of shattered chains, symbolic armor for survivors. Elias's defection made waves. Disbarment threats loomed, but his evidence shielded him, earning quiet respect from peers haunted by similar ethical dilemmas. A late-night call from Arya confirmed fears. "He's unraveling, talking of ending it all, but blaming you." The suicide note's shadow hung heavy, prompting Thorne to fortify the villa with upgraded security, his backstory of protecting dignitaries in war zones proving invaluable. Ever the heart, Mira baked Italian biscotti, reminiscing about raising Lila. "Your mother knew you'd face storms, but emerged stronger." As investigations deepened, ties to Harlan's scandals surfaced. Rigged bids, silenced whistleblowers, crumbling the Hale facade further. Lila testified again, her voice unwavering. "This district isn't just land, it's legacy." Victory tasted bittersweet, the hunt for Damon intensifying. Police raids on Hale properties yielded weapons caches, hinting at more profound paranoia. Lila visited Viviana's grave quietly, whispering updates. "We're holding the line, Mama." The actual trial wasn't in courtrooms, but in reclaiming her spirit amid the wreckage, paving a path toward healing and unassailable strength. The villa stood like a fortress under the moonless sky, its windows barred and lights dim to mask vulnerability. Lila Voss paced the design room, now patched from Damon's rampage, her sketches scattered like battle plans. The air carried the faint scent of Mira's lavender tea, brewed to calm nerves, but tension clung like damp fog. Thorne, the estate manager, patrolled with a soldier's vigilance, his radio crackling with updates from security teams combing the city for Damon Hale. His suicide note, found amid the shredded gowns, haunted Lila. "If I can't have it, no one will. This ends with me." Each word pulsed with his unraveling psyche, a predator cornered, yet dangerous. Serafina Locke, ever strategic, coordinated with police, leveraging Isolde Fairmont's contacts to tighten the net. Lila's phone buzzed with a cryptic text from Arya, Damon's lover. "He's watching what you love. Be ready." Fear gnawed, but Lila channeled it into resolve, sketching designs that wove defiance into every line. Italian lace patterns symbolizing unbroken roots. Ilara, her cousin, worked beside her, and their bond was forged anew through a shared purpose. Ilara's backstory unfolded in quiet moments. Orphaned young, she'd clung to Viviana's mentorship, her fashion degree a lifeline to preserve the Voss legacy. Now, her sharp eyes scanned security feeds, her voice steady. "We've survived worse. We'll outlast him." Mira, the housekeeper who'd raised Lila, bustled in with food, her maternal warmth a reminder of Viviana's belief in resilience. Thorne's update cut through. Suspicious movement near the district. Stay sharp. The hunt escalated when Damon ambushed Alara at the Voss Elegance office late that night. He emerged from the shadows, reeking of whiskey, his eyes wild with desperation. "What do you know about her?" he demanded, gripping her arm, his voice cracking as he ranted about Lila's betrayal. Alara, trained in crisis by Viviana's example, stayed calm, probing his fractured mind. "You don't want this, Damon. Let it go." Laced with pity, her words disarmed him briefly. He released her, muttering apologies before fleeing into the dark. Alara's call to Lila trembled with adrenaline, but held firm. He's not himself. It's like he's chasing ghosts. Police swarmed the office, finding traces of Damon's presence. A crumpled map of the district, marked with Lila's frequented spots. The realization hit. He was targeting her world, not just her. Elias Crow arrived, his lawyer's polish replaced by raw concern. His defection at the zoning hearing had cost him allies, but earned Lila's cautious trust. Over coffee, he shared his ghosts. A mother broken by a controlling father, a career built to atone for failing her. "I see you fighting, Lila," he said, his voice soft. It's why I couldn't stay on his side. Their late-night talks, sorting through legal files and traumas, deepened a bond neither fully named. Elias volunteered to shadow her, his presence a quiet shield. Dr. Elowen Sage, Lila's therapist, insisted on daily sessions, unpacking the paranoia creeping into her mind. Damon's invasion wasn't just physical. It was a psychological siege, echoing the coercive control laws Serafina had cited in court. Elowen drew parallels to real cases, like survivors reclaiming agency after abuse, and introduced Lila to group therapy. There, women shared stories of escape, their voices weaving a tapestry of survival rooted in cultural rituals. Italian songs of resilience Viviana once sang. Lila absorbed it, sketching designs inspired by their strength, each stitch a rebellion against fear. The city buzzed with Damon's search. Fueled by Isolda's leaks, news outlets exposed more Hale scandals, tax evasions and forged permits, all tied to Harlan's corrupt legacy. Finn, Damon's brother, surfaced on a late-night broadcast, his guilt raw from witnessing their father's cruelty as a child. Finn confessed that I should have stopped him sooner, his defection a crack in the Hale facade. Lila watched, her anger softening into pity. Damon was a product of a poisoned dynasty, but his choices were his own. Serafina seized the momentum, filing motions to seize Hale's assets, citing fraud statutes from state law. The legal net tightened, but Damon's absence loomed larger. A breakthrough came when Arya called again, her voice shaking. She'd spotted Damon at a derelict warehouse, once a Hale property, muttering about ending it all. "He's got pills, weapons," she whispered. "I tried to talk him down, but he thinks you're the enemy." Lila relayed this to Thorne, who coordinated a police raid. The warehouse yielded chilling finds. A shrine of photos, Lila's face circled in red, alongside Viviana's old letters stolen from the villa. Damon's obsession had twisted into delusion, his father's voice echoing in his unraveling plans. The raid missed him by minutes, but a discarded bottle of pills hinted at his breaking point. Lila fortified the villa. Her days were a blur of strategy and creation. She and Alara launched a digital campaign for Voss Elegance, showcasing designs that honored the district's heritage. Gowns with motifs of cobblestone streets and Tuscan sunsets. Orders poured in, a testament to their revival, but Lila's heart raced at every shadow. Elias stayed close, his legal mind dissecting Damon's patterns. He's not strategic anymore, he's desperate. A late-night stakeout at the district, led by Thorne, nearly caught him. Damon fled, leaving a knife etched with Hale's initials, a relic from Harlan's collection. The standoff ended at dawn in an abandoned lot. Police cornered Damon, his hands trembling with a bottle of pills, a gun discarded nearby. Lila, against Thorne's protests, approached under escort, her voice steady. "You don't have to be him, Damon. You can stop this." His eyes, hollow with defeat, met hers. "Harlan made me," he muttered, collapsing as medics rushed in. An overdose attempt, thwarted just in time, landed him in custody, alive but broken. Hospital reports confirmed his spiral, paranoia, addiction, a mind fractured by a legacy of control. Lila returned to the villa, exhaustion warring with relief. Mira enveloped her in a hug, whispering Italian proverbs of endurance. Ilara, softer now, shared a sketch. A gown inspired by Lila's courage, its fabric shimmering like armor. Elias lingered, their fingers brushing as they sorted evidence for the final trial. Dr. Sage's sessions grounded her, blending therapy with cultural healing, rituals of cleansing from Viviana's heritage, burning sage to release fear. The district stood untouched, its community rallying with plans for a cultural festival, Italian flags waving in defiance of Hale's shadow. Damon's capture closed a chapter, but Lila knew the scars remained. She visited Viviana's grave, laying a sketch of the new collection beside it. "You gave me the map, Mama," she whispered. The hunt had tested her, but it forged something more substantial. A woman no longer defined by betrayal, but by the legacy she was rebuilding. As sunlight warmed the villa, Lila sketched again, each line a promise. To thrive, not just survive, in a world she was remaking with every fearless step. The courtroom was hushed, the air thick with the weight of finality. Lila Voss stood tall, her posture no longer frail from the wounds of her past, but firm, sculpted by every battle she had survived. Across the aisle, Damon Hale sat restrained by his arrogance, his suit immaculate, his eyes sunken from sleepless nights. The once celebrated tycoon now resembled a man cornered by the truth. Cameras flashed from the gallery, journalists eager to capture the end of an empire built on deceit. But for Lila, this was not about revenge, but reclamation. Judge Ilara Kane's gavel struck, summoning order. The final testimony phase would decide everything: freedom, imprisonment, silence, or justice. Serafina Locke, her unwavering attorney, rose first, presenting the narrative that had taken years to piece together: financial coercion, psychological abuse, systematic isolation. Her words were measured, factual, but underneath pulsed a quiet fury born from decades defending women like Lila. When she projected the evidence, emails, financial statements, photographs of hidden surveillance devices, the courtroom gasped. Damon's defense, led now by a junior associate after Elias Crow's defection, faltered. They painted him as a man under emotional distress, manipulated by his father's legacy. But the jury saw through the performance. Every record, every whisper of intimidation from employees, every testimony from victims like Arya dismantled the facade of the respectable businessman he had once pretended to be. When Lila took the stand, silence enveloped the chamber. She looked directly at Damon, her voice steady, though emotion rippled beneath. "You once said no one would believe me," she began, her tone calm, resolute. "You built a world on control, on fear, on power. But today I choose truth over your version of love." Her words echoed off the marble walls, carrying the weight of every scar. Damon's jaw tightened. For the first time, his mask cracked. Serafina guided her through the narrative of survival, the nights of homelessness, the humiliation, the rediscovery of her mother's letters, all threads woven into a tapestry of strength. "My mother warned me," Lila said softly, her gaze distant. "I thought love meant surrender, but I've learned that real love doesn't demand the destruction of self." A tear slipped down her cheek, not from weakness, but release. When the prosecution rested, Judge Kane invited final arguments. Damon requested to speak. Against Serafina's objection, the judge allowed it. He rose, straightened his cuffs, and addressed the room. "I built everything I had," he began, his tone shaking between anger and despair. Lila was ungrateful, spoiled. "I gave her everything." His words faltered when the screen behind him displayed the bruised photos, the transfer logs of her inheritance siphoned into his shell companies. The crowd murmured. His lawyer pulled at his sleeve, but Damon continued, unraveling before them all. "She ruined me," he shouted, pointing at her. "She took my world." Lila met his glare with quiet composure. "No," she said softly. "You destroyed your own." The gavel struck again. The jury deliberated for 3 tense hours. Lila waited outside the courtroom, the cold marble bench grounding her. Elias approached, hesitant. His once crisp demeanor was now humble, remorse shadowing his eyes. "I testified," he said quietly. "I told them everything. Harlan's bribes, the forged zoning contracts. I couldn't carry it anymore." Lila nodded, neither forgiving nor condemning. "You chose truth," she replied. "That's enough." When the jury returned, the air shifted. The foreman rose, voice steady. "We, the jury, find the defendant, Damon Hale, guilty on all counts." The words sliced through years of fear like sunlight breaking storm clouds. Gasps filled the courtroom. Damon slumped into his chair, the last of his defiance bleeding away. Judge Kane's sentencing was swift and deliberate. 25 years in federal prison with no parole. "Power without conscience," she said, "is the seed of destruction. Let this serve as a warning and a reckoning." Outside, the press swarmed. Lila declined interviews, slipping into a waiting car with Serafina and Ilera. The city lights blurred past, rain streaking down the windows like cleansing tears. For the first time in years, she breathed freely. Ilera clasped her hand. "It's over," she whispered. "He can't hurt you anymore." But Lila knew healing wasn't about endings, but what began after the storm. Weeks later, the Hale empire crumbled under federal investigation. Finn Hale, Damon's estranged brother, testified against their father's network, exposing decades of corruption in real estate and judicial circles. Harlan Hale, once untouchable, was indicted. The dynasty that had once ruled through fear was collapsing, one truth at a time. Lila's days slowly filled with purpose. She oversaw the restoration of the Voss Elegance archives, each sketch a memory of her mother's artistry. The district Damon had tried to demolish now blossomed with new life, cafes, ateliers, community workshops. Survivors of coercive relationships began volunteering, inspired by her story. Serafina spearheaded legislation, expanding definitions of abuse to include financial and psychological manipulation. Newspapers dubbed it the Voss Amendment. Dr. Elowen Sage continued therapy sessions with Lila, guiding her through the layers of grief. "Justice doesn't erase pain," she reminded her gently, "but it builds room for peace." Lila took those words to heart, learning to rest without guilt, to trust without fear. One afternoon she returned to the villa, the first time since the verdict. The sun poured through tall windows, illuminating Viviana's portrait. Beneath it, the inscription read, "Strength is not inherited, it is chosen." Lila smiled faintly. Mira and Thorne greeted her with warmth, their loyalty unshaken. Ilara joined, holding design drafts for the following Voss Elegance collection. Garments inspired by survival, by rebirth. "We'll dedicate it to her," Ilara said, her voice thick with emotion. Later that evening, Elias visited, hesitant at the gate. "You don't owe me forgiveness," he said, eyes downcast. "But I'd like to help pro bono legal work for the haven you're planning." Lila studied him, then nodded. "Help the others," she replied. "That's how you make it right." His smile was slight but genuine. The trial had ended, but the absolute judgment was internal. Lila stood on the villa's balcony that night, the city shimmering below. She whispered to the wind, as if her mother could hear, "I'm home." In that moment, the ghosts of betrayal, humiliation, and pain faded, replaced by something far greater, freedom. Justice, she realized, wasn't about punishment alone. It was about transformation. Damon's imprisonment was merely symbolic. The true victory lay in her choice to rebuild, forgive herself, and live without chains. As dawn broke, the first light touched the preserved district. The echoes of the trial still lingered, but so did hope. The name Voss no longer carried tragedy. It carried triumph. And somewhere, in the whisper of the morning breeze, Lila imagined her mother's voice. "You found your wings." 2 years later, the city that once whispered rumors of Lila Voss's downfall now celebrated her rebirth. The name dragged through scandal, courtrooms, and tabloids stood proudly once more, not as the heiress of a fortune, but as the architect of hope. The Viviana Voss Haven opened its doors on a golden spring morning. nestled within the district her mother had fought to preserve. The building shimmered with Italian-inspired mosaics and arched windows, and its facade was a seamless blend of art, heritage, and renewal. Reporters gathered outside, their lenses capturing the moment as former victims, designers, and philanthropists stepped inside, drawn by the promise of transformation. Lila stood at the entrance, wearing a tailored cream suit that mirrored her mother's timeless taste. She had designed it herself, a symbolic bridge between past and future. Viviana's charm bracelet, once tarnished, was now polished and gleaming on her wrist. Each charm represented a phase of her life: the scissors for creation, the heart for resilience, and the phoenix for rebirth. Lila's eyes glistened as the ribbon fell and applause erupted, not from pride but gratitude. Inside, sunlight streamed through stained glass panels depicting Viviana's most iconic designs, each color chosen to represent a virtue: courage, integrity, compassion, perseverance. The Haven wasn't merely a fashion school. It was a sanctuary for survivors of abuse and loss, a space where creativity could mend broken spirits. Sewing rooms buzzed softly, filled with laughter and quiet determination. Workshops taught tailoring, financial independence, legal literacy, and emotional healing. Every corner whispered Viviana's philosophy: beauty without dignity was hollow. Aria, once Damon's victim and now an advocate, led a group of young women through the exhibit of Viviana's legacy. Her transformation was striking, confident, eloquent, her voice steady as she spoke about empowerment and recovery. "This place isn't about forgetting," she told them. "It's about rebuilding the self that someone tried to erase." The women listened, eyes shining, as she shared her story without shame. Later that afternoon, Lila watched from afar, her heart swelling. Aria had become what she once needed, a voice that refused silence. Elias stood nearby, reviewing documents for the Haven's legal expansion. His once polished demeanor had softened into quiet humility. The redemption he sought wasn't loud. It existed in the long hours spent defending those who couldn't afford protection. His partnership with Lila was professional, grounded in mutual respect, though something unspoken remained, a tenderness that grew naturally, without pretense or urgency. When their hands brushed over a stack of papers, neither pulled away. Ilara, now co-director of Voss Elegance, oversaw a team preparing for their next fashion line. Her remarkable precision had thawed into something warmer, shaped by years of collaboration with Lila. Together, they redefined the company's identity, not as a luxurious empire, but as a creative collective with ethical foundations. Their designs celebrated diversity, heritage, and human strength. Each piece carried a handwritten note from the artisan who crafted it, connecting creator and wearer in shared authenticity. One evening, as twilight bathed the district in amber light, Lila walked through the restored streets. Cafes spilled music onto cobblestones, artists painted in open studios, and laughter echoed between flower-lined balconies. What had once been a battleground was now a living memorial of perseverance. Children ran past murals of Viviana's face, their giggles blending with the hum of life she had always dreamed of protecting. A marble statue stood at the center of the plaza, Viviana seated gracefully, a sketchbook open on her lap, her gaze lifted toward the horizon. The inscription read, "For those who rise after the fall." Beneath it, Lila placed a bouquet of white lilies, her mother's favorite. "You were right," she whispered. "It wasn't the inheritance that mattered. It was what I did with it." She spent that evening alone in the garden behind the Haven, the air rich with lavender and night jasmine. Her thoughts wandered through memories, her mother's stern lessons, Damon's betrayal, the courtroom, the endless nights of doubt. Each memory once carried pain, but now it felt like a mosaic, beautiful precisely because of its cracks. She opened her sketchbook and began to draw. The lines flowed effortlessly, silhouettes of women standing tall, faces unbroken, fabrics swirling like winds of change. Her new collection would be called the Phoenix line, dedicated to every woman who had ever been told she could not rise again. When the line debuted 6 months later, it was more than a fashion show. It was a statement. Survivors modeled the designs, walking the runway as victims and as embodiments of strength. The audience stood in silence as the final piece emerged, a silk and gold thread gown, its train embroidered with phrases from Viviana's letters. Courage is learned through scars. Dignity is reclaimed through choice. The applause was thunderous, but what filled the room wasn't glamour, but reverence. After the show, Lila retreated to the balcony overlooking the city. The night breeze carried the faint sounds of celebration below. Elias joined her quietly, offering a glass of champagne. "She'd be proud," he said softly. Lila smiled. "She always wanted me to find my own way. It just took me a while to see the map." They clinked glasses, the sound light and pure. In the following months, the haven expanded internationally. Branches opened in Milan, New York, and Seoul. Each followed the same ethos, empowerment through creation. Lila became a global advocate for survivor rehabilitation programs, speaking at universities and summits about the intersection of trauma and art. Yet she remained grounded, always returning to the district that had witnessed her destruction and resurrection. On the anniversary of Viviana's passing, Lila visited the family grave. The morning was misty, the air carrying the scent of earth and rain. She knelt, tracing her mother's name engraved in marble. "You taught me everything I needed to survive," she murmured. "And now, I finally understand what you meant by legacy." A single beam of sunlight broke through the clouds, warming her face. She smiled through tears. It wasn't the wealth, the fame, or the company. It was the belief that even from ruins, beauty can grow. As she rose to leave, she noticed a group of young women from the haven placing flowers at nearby graves, each one honoring someone they had lost, someone whose story had driven them to change. They waved when they saw her, their laughter light, full of life. Lila waved back, realizing that the healing cycle had already begun beyond her. The city lights shimmered across the river that evening, reflections dancing like scattered stars. In her studio, Lila worked late, sketching designs for the next season. Her mind was calm, her spirit steady. She was no longer designed to prove anything, to Damon, the world, or even her mother. She designed because creation was her language of gratitude. As dawn approached, she opened the balcony doors, letting the morning air sweep through. The district below stirred awake, the first rays of sunlight painting the streets gold. Lila breathed deeply, feeling her mother's presence not as memory but as rhythm. In every heartbeat, every stitch, every rising sun. The true inheritance she finally knew was not the fortune or the empire. It was belief, belief in renewal, purpose, and love untainted by control. A soft smile touched her lips as she set her pencil down and gazed at the glowing horizon. She was no longer the woman who had been broken. She was the woman who had rebuilt herself. And in that quiet, sacred moment, Lila Voss understood that the legacy she carried was eternal, the power to rise, again and again, from the ashes of yesterday.